A man who makes organized crime and murder a business.
Charles Feigenbaum became the victim of Montreal's first ever gangland murder on 21 August 1933. Feigenbaum was at the top of a gang of Eastern European Jewish criminals that included his brother Maxie and New York millionaire Pinkus Brecher.
See, boss, you're wise to everything before it happens.
That smuggled opium, heroin, and cocaine into the Montreal port and swiftly sent to New York City, where Murder, Inc. boss Louis Buchalter took possession. Feigenbaum became powerful by reinvesting his profits in other underworld pursuits, operating 300 slot machines in hotels north of Montreal and controlling brothels, nightclubs, and gambling dens. Romanian-born diminutive but mean Harry Davis, born Chascal Lazarovich, joined the crew and became a key participant. Authorities took down Feigenbaum's smuggling operation in 1930. The court convicted Feigenbaum of smuggling silk into Canada and sentenced him to 5 years in prison. Henchmen Louis Miller, Julius Cohen, and others were given shorter sentences. In 1933, Feigenbaum, still behind bars, faced 6 additional months as Davis and Pinkus Brecher were hit with drug smuggling charges. Feigenbaum had soured on Harry Davis for failing to tend to his family while he was behind bars. Davis visited Feigenbaum in prison and worked things out, but Feigenbaum soon had misgivings and concluded that Davis planned to blame him for everything and take over his businesses while he languished behind bars for a long time. The RCMP encouraged Feigenbaum to sour on Davis to help with the prosecution. Feigenbaum told the RCMP everything. They nabbed Davis with 852 kilos of heroin. Feigenbaum testified against Davis in 1933, and a judge ordered Davis to 14 years in prison as well as 10 lashes and $10,000 fine. Feigenbaum, now 48, was a free man and quickly embarked on an attempt to expand his gambling den empire. He moved his family from his home at 397 St. Joseph Street West to a country home in Val-David, north of Montreal. He rarely traveled without a bodyguard and vowed to return to testify in a separate trial that October against Brecher, who had been extradited from the USA to face trial in Montreal. Both Davis, already in prison, and Brecher, awaiting trial, had motive to kill Feigenbaum. A pair of hitmen visited Feigenbaum at his country home but were unable to distinguish between Charlie and his brother Maxie, so they waited a couple of weeks for him to return to Montreal. On 21 August 1934, Feigenbaum drove into town to pick up packages that his sister-in-law gave to furnish his country place. He brought his son Jackie rather than his bodyguard. The two spent a couple of hours waiting for his car to get fixed at the New Way Auto Parts on Clark Street, and then at about 5 p.m. they parked out front of Maxie Feigenbaum's place at 4510 Esplanade, apartment 7. The Tuesday afternoon summer streetscape was lively with people from the nearby Fletcher's Field Park and others on sidewalks and balconies as Feigenbaum, nattily attired in a grey suit with knickerbockers, handed boxes to his son, who collected them in the back seat. One of 3 sinister men sitting in a Hudson automobile on the other side of the street exited the vehicle and strode directly towards Charlie Feigenbaum and raised a gun. Feigenbaum raised his hand as the killer fired 6 shots. Several bullets grazed his head and one hit him directly in the heart, killing him. The shooter turned and scrambled across the narrow street and hopped onto the getaway car sideboard as the driver peeled off northbound. Detectives Francoeur, Bond, and Greenberg came to the scene, and police recovered the abandoned car a few blocks away, but found no fingerprints or other clues. The registration noted that the car had been recently purchased by someone named L. Berkowitz, but with a non-existent address. The car had been bought with $50 bills by a tall, dark man. Somebody called the police asking if they were aware of the shooting. "Is the victim dead?" "Yes," the police receptionist replied. "Good," said the caller before hanging up. Police believe the killers to be American, perhaps part of Louis Lepke Buchalter's legendary gun-for-hire squad known as Murder, Inc., and that they might be from New York or Chicago. Police raided an East End hotel room and arrested 5 American men, mostly actors, who were high on opium, but they proved unrelated to the crime. About 4,000 people crowded around Feigenbaum's St. Joseph Street home as his body was taken to Beth David Synagogue across the street. It was the best-attended Jewish funeral in the city's history at the time. One newspaper wryly quipped that the large crowd included a couple of friends. Brecher's prosecution proceeded, but was clearly weakened without Feigenbaum as a witness. The court found Brecher guilty nonetheless, and guards brought him to Bordeaux prison to await sentencing. On 28 September 1934, Brecher reported feeling sick and asked to be taken to the prison infirmary. Guards accompanied the 58-year-old, but he leaped over a railing and landed on his head and was declared dead soon after. Harry Davis served his sentence and returned to become a criminal kingpin, while the mysterious name L. Berkowitz, the name on the car registration, would re-emerge in an important way. Feigenbaum's fate would be duplicated in his family when his uncle Leon, aged 54, was shot to death in a robbery at his used goods store at 51 Craig Street West, now St. Antoine Street, in January 1947. A pair of French-Canadian thugs were charged and convicted.
Are you gonna talk, Joe?